Who's actually going to get the most out of an underground utility locator, and who can safely walk away? If you're a homeowner who just wants to avoid hitting a stray cable while digging a garden bed, you'll have a very different set of expectations than a contractor who spends every week tracing power lines for new construction. And then there's the price question. Is a $500 plus kit really worth it for someone who only needs it once a year? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Those are the 3 worries that keep most people on the fence. So let's walk through the real-world scenarios, the hidden trade-offs, and where the value actually lives. First off, the Amprobe UAT 505 is built for the kind of work where you need to find both energized and de-energized utilities without having to dig up the whole yard. The kit comes with a transmitter that you clamp onto a known line, a handheld receiver with a high-contrast display and automatic backlight, and a set of accessories for probing. In practice, that means you can hook the transmitter onto a live breaker panel, walk a few hundred feet away, and the receiver will show you the approximate depth and direction of that line, even if it's buried under concrete, asphalt, or loose soil. For a utility contractor who's mapping out a new site, that ability to lock onto an energized wire from 100 feet deep can shave hours off a day's work. What about the everyday homeowner? Imagine you're about to lay a new patio and you've got a vague idea there might be a gas line or an old telephone cable somewhere. The UAT 505 lets you scan the area, switch between modes for metal detection and for tracing low-voltage lines, and get a visual cue on the screen when something is detected. The depth readout goes up to 20 feet, which is more than enough for most residential projects. That instant feedback can be the difference between a smooth pour and an expensive call to the gas company to locate a pipe you accidentally nicked. Now, let's talk about who should probably skip this kit. If you're only ever going to dig a small garden and you're comfortable calling your local utility company for a one-call service, you might find the UAT 505 overkill. The kit's strength is in its versatility. It can handle everything from high-voltage power to buried metal rebar, but you have to learn a few tricks to get reliable readings. Users who aren't comfortable handling live electricity or who don't have a basic understanding of how electromagnetic fields behave might end up with false positives, which can lead to unnecessary digging or, worse, a safety hazard. In those cases, a simple metal detector or a cheap handheld tracer that only works on de-energized lines could be a more sensible, budget-friendly choice. Practical strengths start with the multiple tracing modes. The transmitter can emit a signal that the receiver interprets in 3 ways: a standard trace mode for following a live conductor, a locate mode that works even when the line is off, and a metal detect mode that picks up any ferrous object. In the field, I've seen crews use the trace mode to follow a feeder cable from a transformer down a trench, then flip to locate mode when they need to confirm the line's position after the power has been shut off for a weekend. The ability to switch without swapping hardware saves time and reduces the chance of losing a tiny piece of equipment in a busy work site. Another solid point is the depth measurement. The spec says up to 20 feet, but in real use the display tends to be most accurate in the 0-12-foot range. When you're hunting a line that's run under a driveway, you'll usually see a clear, steady readout as you move the receiver across the surface. That kind of consistency lets you mark the exact spot for a pinpoint excavation, which is priceless when you're trying to avoid damaging a water main. The high-contrast screen with automatic backlight also means you can work in low-light conditions, think early morning or late afternoon, without squinting or having to pull out a flashlight. On the flip side, the kit isn't flawless. The receiver's automatic backlight can be a bit too aggressive in bright sunlight, washing out the numbers and making it harder to read depth values at a glance. You can dial it down in the settings, but that extra menu navigation adds a small learning curve. Also, while the transmitter can handle up to 100-foot detection on de-energized lines, the signal strength does degrade if you have a lot of metal interference nearby, such as a row of buried rebar or a thick concrete slab. In those environments, you'll sometimes need to get a little closer to the source or use the metal detect mode to differentiate between the target cable and the surrounding clutter. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something to keep in mind if you work in heavily reinforced foundations. Battery life is another practical consideration. The transmitter runs on a standard 9-volt battery, which lasts